Alright, I just saw all of Belle in theaters. This is the new Mamoru Hosoda film. I have a lot of thoughts. This is a very dense movie. Probably the densest from him that I've seen so far. I haven't seen all of his works yet. I've seen Summer Wars. I've seen Wolf Children. I've seen Mirai. And I saw his Digimon stuff, and now I've seen Belle. I haven't seen Girl Who Leapt Through Time or Boy and the Beast. But I do feel confident in saying that Belle is probably the most Hosoda core film that he's done. Like, it's got near future technology about interacting with other people. It's got family drama. It's got teenagers being teenagers. It's got furries. It's got this is a very Hosoda core film. If you've seen like two or more of Hosoda's films, you know exactly what you're getting from this one. In particular, this one feels like he took a lot of the concepts from Digimon and Summer Wars, or at least one concept, the idea of this always this massive virtual world that you can interact with freely, and just expounded it to be like the core of the story, kind of. It's something that Hosoda's been tossing around a lot in his films, and it's finally coming out full force here, and I was really excited for it. It didn't give me what I was expecting or hoping for, which is both good and bad in some areas. Overall, I would say this is definitely a really solid film, but it also is a bit messy. Now, normally, I say with anime, just cram in as many fucking ideas as you can, because I love that shit. As long as it's written well. And I wouldn't say this one's written badly, or poorly, or even below average, but there are a lot of disparate elements in this film that don't mesh as nicely as they could have. In particular, there's kind of two competing narrative aesthetics, I want to call them, to this movie. There's the one half, which is our main character, Suzu, also known as Belle, basically becoming a VTuber, or V-singer, I guess would be the more accurate term, and using the world of the internet to overcome her own social anxieties and like personal inadequacies and stuff. Loved that part. And I also loved the other part, which is basically an homage to Beauty and the Beast, which I was not expecting. I probably should have expected it, since the title is fucking Belle. I should have expected that. Just went over my head for some reason. But yeah, this is definitely a lot of Beauty and the Beast homages, specifically the animated Disney film, which I fucking love. It's probably one of my favorite films, period. I don't watch it nearly enough, but I fucking love that movie. It's so good. Which is another area where I think, just for me personally, it was like Belle falters just a little bit, because like you're paying homage to one of the greatest films of all time, especially one of the greatest animated films of all time, and like there are literally like shot for shot like moments in this film. In particular, in Beauty and the Beast, it's the scene where Belle discovers the rose and the Beast chases her out of the castle in anger, and then he does that thing where he's like, ah, shit, I fucked it up. They recreate that moment like almost shot for shot. It's a different context, but they recreate it. I wouldn't say they recreate it poorly, but it was interesting that they just mimicked that shot exactly. So that was kind of interesting. I don't know where I was going with this thought, but yeah, and it has some. It doesn't go for the romance element like Beauty and the Beast does. It takes the like beastly outer appearance and kind of reshapes it for a internet basis, like presenting a beastly online identity for some kind of purpose. The reveal of it eventually was pretty interesting. I'm not gonna. Normally, I just spoil the shit out of everything in these videos, but I'm gonna leave a little bit for you to see in theaters or at home, because you should definitely go see this film. I think it's really solid. Um, at the very least, it is extremely enjoyable. Uh, but what was I saying? Yeah, the online identities part really plays into like the final beats of the film, which I'm not sure were well executed or not, because this is where where the part about disparate elements not meshing as well as they could, because you've got the Suzu gaining self-confidence and overcoming her past traumas element. You've got the Beauty and the Beast element, which is basically its whole other a whole other entity within the film. You've got this, I guess, minor spoilers. I guess you've got a child abuse subplot. And I realized I was trying to remember, like, I just watched an anime from last year that had something like this. What the hell was it? Specifically, it's like a almost jab slash critique at Japanese child welfare, and how it's like it doesn't really help kids that are in need. And then I remembered it was because I watched Higurashi last year, which has a major subplot about that. Not as dark as Higurashi in this one, but there's definitely child abuse in this film. So, yeah. And it really doesn't shy away from how mean and evil it can be. So I think that was an interesting element. Although, I will say there's about a 5 to 10 minute chunk that resolves this subplot that I just was not a fan of. It's like at the very end of the film, and it's just, it didn't work both on a logical and emotional scale for me. Like, it worked a little bit more on the emotional side of Suzu helping this situation resolve itself, but it didn't actually resolve itself. And the logistics behind the whole thing don't make a lot of sense, both in the moment and the more you think about them. So I just was not a fan of how that resolved. It felt rushed and overly padded at the same time. I guess more so it tried to cram in as much information for it to make sense as it could, and I didn't think it worked quite as well. So yeah, there's a lot. This script needed a little bit more refinement, I think. It needed a little more fine-tuning to fit all of the slots into place a little bit better. But I will say that, like, the main core thrust of this film, which is Suzu basically overcoming dead mom syndrome, pretty common in anime. That part I thought was really solid, really fucking good, and the cast that she is surrounded with is just so cool. Her best friend, basically, I look at her and I think, you go on 4chan a lot, you lurk. And it definitely shows up a lot in the technology aspects of the film, where she's pulling out fucking she's pulling out fucking spreadsheets of shit to like pinpoint different things. Like it absolutely made me think of 4chan playing fucking Capture the Flag with Shia LaBeouf. Like she's on that level of internet weirdo-ness, and she's great. Not necessarily a great friend in a lot of areas. Like, she's kind of mean. But, yeah, she was fun. There's this dude who's like into canoeing, who's just this oblivious doofus, and I love him. And he is part of what I would what was probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, aside from the climax. The climax was fucking phenomenal, but we'll get to that. Like, there's a specific moment in this movie where they do a rule of threes with it's canoe guy, Suzu, and then like the class rep, I guess she is. And this, it's like, it's a really fun gag. Like, it's shot like a one shot, like it's like a wide shot of like a train station, and like dude walks in the frame, walks out of frame, walks back in the frame, Suzu walks in the frame, and he's also doing like a funny walk kind of thing because he's nervous as fuck. And then on the third one, it's Suzu who backs out of frame with the funny walk, and I just thought that was the funniest fucking shit ever. It's one of my favorite examples of rules of three that I've ever seen, because of how it like reorganizes it and kind of subverts it a little bit. I just found that fucking hilarious. This film is also pretty funny. It doesn't have a lot of comedy, but when it goes for the comedy, it's got that really great, wholesome Hosoda comedy that I really like. Now I need to just go fucking finish the other two Hosoda films that I haven't seen, because they're both on this shelf somewhere. Like there's a Boy and the Beast right there. So I really need to finish up my Hosoda catalog. But yeah, and all the I think for the most part it has a pretty firm grasp, not on how the internet works per se, but at least how people talk on the internet. Like, does a pretty good job at capturing the discourse, which was very frustrating. I will say though, Hosoda does kind of have, when he constructs these online worlds to interact in, he normally just makes them as big and free form as he possibly can, which works fine for the most part. But like, it worked fine in Digimon because that's some wacky nonsense, and it worked in Summer Wars because it was mostly just a vehicle for cool fight scenes and interesting like action sequences. But when it's the core focus of the film like this, the basically free-form fantastical elements of this basically app, it's an app basically, makes it a little less believable. I lose my suspension of disbelief a little bit in how this app, website, social media thing functions, because Jesus Christ, it's basically the Summer Wars online war, Oz. That's what it was called in Summer Wars, Oz. Except here it's called You. Get it? Because you can do whatever you want. But that's not a huge gripe I have with the series. It's just a tiny little like, oh, this could have been a little bit more thought out, I guess, in terms of how it presents this online world. There is a little brief mention of like corporate sponsors, and it's for basically the villain of the film, and I thought that was kind of funny that they just kind of threw that in there, really with that. Now it's not like plot relevant or anything until like the very very end, but I just thought it was kind of funny the way they put it in there. Um, yeah, overall, I'd say even though the story is a bit messy and cluttered in some areas and the metaphors don't quite work in some areas, I'd say overall the story is very, very solid, much like the visuals. Animation in here is fucking amazing. I mean, it's a Hosoda film. It's a Studio Chizu film. What were you expecting? I can tell you what I wasn't expecting, which is some of the best CG animation I've ever seen from a fucking anime. This movie is fucking gorgeous. And, like, they only use the CG when they're in the social media world. Like, it's kind of like your... What's the VR chat? It's kind of like that, but way better looking. So, it kind of recreates the feel of VR chat, but if it actually looked good. And it's so fucking seamless and colorful and beautiful. I love Hosoda's color direction. It's fucking amazing. It's just this bright, it's very bright and poppy, but it's also got this lightness to it. It never feels overly saturated, especially in the real life scenes. But love the color direction. But the online world, the U world, is so fucking pretty and gorgeous. The avatars that people come up with, some of them are a little generic, but I think on the whole, most of them are really unique and interesting looking. Sorry, it's almost 11 o'clock, I think, or something. I'm recording this right after the movie. And also the real world segments basically look like a Hosoda film, which I'm totally fine with. I'd say, I guess Summer Wars is the closest to what it's looking like. I do think Hosoda is really starting to perfect his character designs, though. Like whoever he's getting on for the character designs, they're really nailing it. Like there was really only one character whose design I wasn't like super jazzed about. It's the love interest of the film. He's just a kind of a tall, silent dude, which is definitely his character, but everyone else's character designs are so fucking amazing that I guess he just kind of stands out. Suzu's design in particular, I love, like the freckles that she's kind of self-conscious about. You can see the fucking bags under her eyes constantly about how stressed she is about fucking everything. Yeah, I love really strong character design in this. Just generally solid animation overall. I don't... Fuck, I'm tired. I don't think there was a single piece of animation in this that was bad. Maybe some frame rate issues here and there during the CG stuff, but nothing I can't really say for sure. This is just a fucking amazing looking film. And, it's fucking sounds great, too. Like, this is... I didn't expect it to be, like, I went into this completely blind. I didn't look up anything about this film. So I didn't know it was about a V-singer, basically. And they got some fucking banger tracks in this. Let me tell you, the opening track, I was just vibing and jamming. This was some good shit. The song they play at the climax got me tearing up a little bit. It's just some really nice shit. I almost thought the composer was Kevin Penkin for a sec, just because the bass and cello lines that are in some of these songs sound really familiar, Kevin Penkin-wise. But I forgot who it was. I think it was Taisei Iwasaki, I think, is the composer. Who may or may not be Taku Iwasaki's brother. I should have looked this up before I got here, but I feel like that's a thing. Don't quote me on that, but that might be who it is. I'm not sure. They only subtitled like some of the credits for this, So it went by very quickly. But yeah, the songs are bangers, and just in general, the soundtrack is really solid. Now that I talk about it more, I like this movie a bit more than when I left the theater and when I was sitting in the theater. I can definitely say I was ready to rewatch it immediately because I just wanted to dive into it even more. Because there's a lot of stuff to dissect in this movie. It's not always good. It not doesn't always mix well together, but there is a lot to this movie that I would like to go back and reanalyze. This is, yeah, it's just so dense with ideas, and I really like it. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Belle. I have no idea what kind of video this is going to be when I upload it. This is either just, I think I'm going to make it just a separate video instead of putting it in one of the seasonal things. So, yeah, that's it for now. If you like this, be sure to subscribe to this side channel. And if you're not, and if you already are, make sure you're also subscribed to the main channel. And check out some other videos while you're here. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.